Guess I better shut that.
Recording in progress.
You good, Dave? Oh,
I am now.
okay. All right, good evening. It is 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 11th. I'm calling the Lunenburg Finance Committee meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific items on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link attached to the agenda on the town website. From a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter webinar ID 814-1681-8974. This agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any announcements from the committee this evening? Nope. Excellent. We're back to our usual attendance, too. Are there any public comment from the public? Seeing none, is there any public comment from the committee? Nope. The only one that I have is that we still have yet to get back to the Boys and Girls Club regarding are you smarter than a sixth grader, and whether or not we're going to be putting a team together for that. So give it some thought. We'll have to talk about it a little bit later with upcoming meetings. Include it for that one. Otherwise, I have nothing for this evening. Do we have a town manager's report tonight? No? Okay. Do we have a finance director report this evening?
Not tonight. I have preliminary quarterlies. Heather's reviewing, but I wanted to give it to the select board and yourselves as well at the same time. So
Excellent.
I'll have it for next week.
Okay, thank you. So for next week. All right, that brings us right up to our warrant for, or report for warrant review. Tricky saying. Let me just pull my notes up. Okay, so as I was saying to, I think just about everyone heard it, Tiffany and I sent out an updated letter, or an updated form to our email about 10 minutes before the meeting started. We were working on it right up until then. And at least in terms of the bullet points, the 10 bullet points that we have, we've made it through all of them. With the exception, we've mentioned the fact that 40S is in there, but we have not fleshed that one out because there's a lot of questions I think that we had. Probably more for the town manager to answer than anything else. And then what we want to say in and around the override itself. We can pull it up at least. If anyone wants to jump on the call, feel free. Otherwise, we can just pull it up this way.
It looks like the second line on my format anyway, the first paragraph, there's an extra word in there.
Oh, it's very possible. There's going to be lots of wordsmithing on this one.
Yeah,
actually.
ahead of financial impact.
Let me bring it back out to a form that I can work with.
I don't even see the word financial impact.
Dave, are you the one that, are you on the one that Evan uploaded like 14 minutes ago?
Recent one?
It has a table in it.
It's date stamped for tonight.
Yeah, just before the meeting.
I just opened it out of the email.
No, I have an email.
That's what I,
Tonight's email.
You did
Yeah.
email it.
Should be out of the email, the one that I emailed out.
Yeah, you should be on it then.
It should be entitled, Dave, at the top. It should have 4/11/24 at the end.
So, a suggestion, do we want to read paragraph by paragraph, stop, and then be open to revisions?
That's exactly what I was
You
thinking.
want to tag team? read?
Sure.
All right.
Do you want to make adjustments on the fly while we do it?
I'll do adjustments,
Okay.
yeah, from the committee. So I have one other question because I want to edit this the right way. I have this downloaded in a Word document and I can edit it this way and then put it back up?
we're
Yeah.
in deliberations, so.
Yeah, you can edit it live, you can edit it on the SharePoint, you can edit it on your personal computer. It doesn't matter at this point because we're in an open
Okay.
meeting deliberation.
All right, so I'll start with the first paragraph then. The Lunenburg Finance Committee is reporting that Lunenburg's financial position is changing, and some post-pandemic effects are starting to show that has financial impact on the town as a whole. In planning for fiscal year '25, thanks to the town's conservative practice for many years, the town was able to make it through the difficulties of some financial instability. As a result, many of the town's departments are currently operating below their needs level budget. There are positions that continue to remain unfilled for a variety of reasons, causing strain on said departments that are operating without a full staff. So comments for,
What department is operating below their needs level budget?
DPW specifically mentioned it.
Council on Aging is?
Council on Aging mentioned it. Library said they were operating at it. The fact that we had to pull all the funding to shift over to the school department, which means we cut all position increases and paused the police department for the second year in a row. I think an argument could be made that the police department would theoretically then be operating underneath its needs base.
As you were reading that, was feeling that we should have something in there that specifically states that those positions were cut from the original recommended, town manager's recommended budget, however you say that. You know, you're saying that they're operating under their needs. Well, they've been operating under their needs all this year. The proposed changes and small increases in staffing were intended to start addressing that, and those had to be removed because of the reappropriation of funding within the budget. I think somehow that should come out in that paragraph.
So we could say, although there was a budget presented to more appropriately staff, those cuts were made after the initial proposed budget. Thoughts?
Well, my thought is, you're saying they're understaffed, to me would mean open positions right now, not necessarily nothing that has been budgeted, but what they have for open positions. Actual vacancies. I thought the DPW was back up to level.
Well, remember, the budget that DPW presented was a needs-based budget, not what was actually presented in the preliminary, or the preliminary budget.
Well, what they presented was an above-target
Yeah.
budget. I don't see any needs in the DPW that are not being met. And when I've asked for what they require over the X number of years and how we should be funding it, I didn't get an answer on that.
Do we want to pull that out of here then?
I
Again, this is
think this,
entirely.
I think the sentence is heading in the right direction. I just am stuck on needs level budget.
Could we say that the result of, as a result of many of the town's departments are struggling to operate on a needs-based budget? Or struggling to maintain operation on needs-based operation?
I would be fine if it said currently operating below their desired budget.
Okay.
So take out the word needs and
Needs
put
level and just
their
put
desired level budget or just desired
Desired
budget?
budget.
Desired budget.
Sure.
Okay, done. How about the last sentence in there, in that paragraph?
I think you can put a period after departments. I think that are operating without a full staff is redundant to the lead-in.
So it would read, "There are positions that continue to remain unfulfilled for a variety of reasons causing strain on said departments," period.
Period.
Yeah.
And take the rest off, yeah.
All right, done. So we're good with moving on to the next one then? Mm-hmm. All right, Evan, I'll read the next paragraph as well, if that's all right with you, because you put the table in, so I think you can workshop that one a little bit more.
Tables, I put the table after this paragraph, so.
So the process of developing, and then you have another paragraph underneath that.
Right.
So do you want me to read this? Or?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah, this one's fine. This
The-
is, yeah.
All right, and then please feel free to stop me if someone wants to make a comment. The process of developing and presenting a budget to the annual town meeting begins in the early fall with the town manager meeting with department heads to discuss expenses, wants, and needs. The town manager then presents the proposed budget to the finance committee in mid-February. Over the following 90 days, the finance committee meets with the various department heads to discuss their individual line item budget requests. This year, additional scrutiny was given to every single line in an attempt to holistically understand the appropriation of all funds and the impact on the operational elements of all departments. Through the deliberative process, the Finance Committee determined the historic budget schedule may not offer sufficient time for appropriate analysis. The Finance Committee then votes on the recommendation of the finalized omnibus budget provided by the town manager and reports to the annual town meeting. As a legislative body acting on the town's behalf, the Finance Committee recommends the approval 5-1 of the budget as presented at the annual town meeting.
So, through the deliberative process of the process and the impact on the through the deliberative process, the Finance Committee determined the historic budget schedule may not offer sufficient time for appropriate analysis. I feel that's a different thought than the rest of what flowed through there. I agree with the statement. It may just be like a note or something at the end of the paragraph, or it just kind of reads awkwardly in the way it is.
I agree. What if we moved that to the very end of the paragraph? So after 5-1 of the budget as presented at the annual town meeting, and then that sentence.
I agree, that would make sense. Do we want to recommend that that be looked into and maybe changed for next year? I don't know if, I know the state budgets, we have no control over and things like that, but Is that something we want to recommend, that things start a little earlier?
I think we should do that, yeah.
All right, so
I will
maybe
say
we
that,
can-
like, other towns are able to hold their town meetings well in advance of ours, so we might want to learn how they get to that state.
I agree.
I mean, this year and last year were kind of, we had curveballs thrown at us each year in different ways. So that's what made it challenging, I think.
Yeah, the negative of doing it earlier is that we have less information from the state and less uncertainty about certain things.
lot more
The
unknown.
positive thing is we get more time to have discussions and make plans for, if this happens, we do that, if that happens, we do this, or, and so on. So I guess if it's possible to start earlier, that would make sense.
I mean, honestly, though, like, we need an extra week for when the hearing is to when we're needing to put out this report. It just, it doesn't seem practical for us to, because of open meeting laws, to really deliberate and prepare a document, deliberate on it, make the changes, and then finalize it.
I have two grammatical fixes. Over the following 90 days, the Finance Committee meets with various department heads to discuss their individual line item, not time budgets.
I corrected that.
Got it. And then second to last sentence now, as a legislative body acting on the towns should be possessive towns, apostrophe S behalf. And lastly, the first sentence. Early fall with the town manager meeting with department heads to discuss expenses, wants, comma, and needs. The Oxford comma is a must.
Okay. So those changes are made, and then that sentence now is at the end that we spoke about. Through the deliberative process, the Finance Committee determined the historic budget schedule may not offer sufficient time for appropriate analysis. So that closes that paragraph with that sentence now.
Do you want to say analysis and reporting? Or analysis and recommendation? Or just leave it as analysis?
Say it again, sorry, it was,
Do we want to add on appropriate analysis and recommendation, analysis and reporting, analysis?
analysis, recommendations, and reporting,
Okay.
probably.
The full lot.
Analysis, comma, recommendations.
And reporting.
Comma and reporting.
I don't like the comma there, but if,
You've got to have an Oxford comma.
Just about shut it off.
If you don't have an Oxford comma, then we eat grandma. Isn't that the way it goes? Let's eat grandma.
Formatting wise, I'm moving the whole next paragraph down to the next page because of the table.
Yeah. So this one, I simply started writing, and it's, I don't even think, I think I stopped in the middle of a sentence. No, I didn't actually, I finished a sentence. But I did throw in a table, which I still have open on Excel, and I'm happy to mess around with, because I think it reads a little bit confusing. But effectively, all it's showing is that this is right off of DLS's website. And it was, I went off of the numbers that the town manager had presented to us last week, that the FY24 tax rate is $14.10 per thousand, which, based on these assessed values, increasing by 100,000, and I did put in the average household in Lunenburg for FY24, which was the 481,417, so that's your average household. What the estimated tax bill was for this year, and then the next two columns are the FY25 proposed budget without an override, which sets the rate at $14.35 per thousand. The estimated tax bills on the left side of that column, that portion, and on the right-hand side, the estimated impact. So it's just the difference between FY25 and FY24. So this is, if we approve the omnibus budget as presented, this middle two columns will be the estimated outcome regardless, override or not. So anyone who has a $250,000 household can assume, or an assessed $250,000 house, because the assessments have all changed, can approximate a $62.50 increase on their tax bill. After that, the last two columns are FY25 with an override, with an estimated tax rate of $14.76 per thousand. That gets us up to the 948,136, I think it is, for the override, and shows the newly estimated FY25 bills and then the newly estimated impact. So again, that is the FY25 estimated tax bill under the override column minus the FY24 tax bill. So with an override and the omnibus budget, the last column is what could be, is what would theoretically be expected on each property. So I wasn't sure if we want, I have it on the spreadsheet to include the difference between with and without the override, but it just got more confusing because now you're subtracting FY25 from FY25. And it's easy enough. I think we just can acknowledge it verbally or written that it wouldn't be the override and the, without the override and the override combined. It's just one or the other is the new increase. And I believe that's where the town manager got her $317.74 as the average increase with the override. And 120 without the override.
When are FY25 tax bills expected to be received?
The tax rate would be set in the fall, like latest, and then they would be mailed out by December 31st.
So people won't, when does something come in the mail that tells them what their assessed value? They get estimated taxes, right? Prior to town meeting, they won't know what their new assessment is in the mail, right?
The tax classification hearing would be in November, and there would be the interim year. So if there were any adjustments, it would be known that time in the tax classification hearing. The values are set by the assessors prior to that. So it would be late October, early November.
When do they get their FY24 final assessments? People don't know what their current assessments are. It's not,
They're on the website.
it's not been mailed to them.
Tax bills, you mean an actual tax bill?
Mhm.
That will be mailed by tomorrow or Tuesday. So,
Okay.
but the actual assessments are on the website.
Will these latest tax bills coming out tomorrow or the next day have the latest assessment numbers as well? Or will it be strictly based on the FY24 assessment? It won't have the new numbers on there.
No.
Because the tax rates
there
are-
no new numbers.
right.
They are what was just done.
Right. So it works the same, people wouldn't know anyways, unless they went to the website to see what their newly, or they went to the GIS website and looked at what their newly assessed values were on a yearly basis to see.
But we currently don't even know what our FY24 assessed values are unless we went to the website. Right? It has not been mailed to everyone in town.
Never is.
It doesn't get mailed.
It's never mailed.
It is, it's on your tax bill.
Sure, so
Your
you
assessed
get it in
value is
November.
usually you get 24 in November. Like we would have in November 23 had our fiscal year 24 assessed value sent to us. It's on the tax bill. Says what your assessment is, right on it.
For FY24? Because they haven't even set the tax rate by then. Or they would have just set the tax rate by then.
This year was a different year because we did estimated preliminary bills for first, second, and third quarter. So because the tax rate wasn't set until recently, that's why residents aren't getting their actual tax bills until now. But typically it's done in November. But the reval process of what was involved, it took longer than past the December 31st date.
Okay, I see what you're asking now.
So the new valuations are kicking into the final 24 tax bill, correct? Or no?
So, and there, if you have an addition, it all hits you in that final quarter.
What I'm talking about is the 5-year reval. Is that kicking into the last
24,
bill in 24?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
That was that whole process. We had to get those,
So
values.
then, Chris, you've got a point there, because it took me a while to get around to calculating mine, but I've got an increase because of the reval, and I've got a potential increase with the override and the potential change in the tax rate. So, I mean, I'm looking at a similar number for both. No, actually not. The valuation increase is about half of what I'm looking at for the override increase. So where you see 230 between the new valuation and if the override passes, I'm looking at roughly $340 increase.
So I guess my point was going to be, should we add a statement in here to say that although fiscal '25 assessments won't be finalized until November, your fiscal '24 should be mailed out this week and is available on the assessor's website?
Well, by the time this is published, they will already have been mailed out. But they will still be available on the assessor's website.
Okay, so maybe we just say the fiscal year '24 assessed value is available on the tax bills mailed this week and are also available on the assessor's website.
Better off to go to GIS, because on the assessor's website, it's listed by, I don't even know what it's listed by, but it's not in any kind of order that I can understand.
If I recall, it's just up in the right-hand corner or in the middle, it says your assessed value.
No, I'm talking about when you go to try to get historical information off of the assessor's website, there's a file in there that you can get 23, 22, 21. You open those files, and it's a big, long list of all the properties, but it's not by street like the
Okay.
other.
Yeah, but the GIS is listed off of the assessor's site, which
Right.
is what I was thinking anyways.
Yeah, what's it called, the property card or whatever it is, that's what I've found to be the easiest to work with.
Maybe most people will know where to get their assessed value. I'm not sure everyone does.
I agree. I think we should draw
Most people
attention
don't
to
even
it.
understand Prop 2.5, and they claim to be experts on it.
I will say the town up in New Hampshire where I spend some of my time did their reval 3 years ago, and the documentation of what they found when they measured the properties and the new valuations were mailed to everybody before they were finalized. And you had an opportunity to actually set up an appointment with the company to discuss any issues or discrepancies.
So just back to this, should we just say something to the effect of like, individual assessed home values can be found on the assessor's website and on the final tax bills, fiscal year '24 tax bills? And maybe a statement that fiscal year '25 assessed values get finalized in November.
And mailed out by December 31st of 2024. Fun fact, in 1980, the tax rate was $50.25 in Lunenburg.
$50?
$50.25. Wow.
So that paragraph would then read from the beginning, due to the limitations of Proposition 2.5, Lunenburg is restricted on its annual levy increase. The levy is comprised of real and property taxes, new growth, and debt exclusion. When the needs of a municipality outpace the levy capacity, Proposition 2.5 allows for overrides to be considered. An override is a permanent increase in the tax levy spread out to all residents of the town. Individual home assessed values can be found on the assessor's website and on the FY24 tax bills, and FY25 tax bills are assessed in November and mailed out by December.
Yeah, and then maybe the following table illustrates the effect of a Proposition 2.5 override.
About potential impact.
The following table illustrates the potential effects.
Or I would say the following table, you could say allows one to estimate their property tax bill for
If a-
FY25 with and without an override.
Yeah.
The following table illustrates the effect assessed value with or without an override. The following table illustrates the effects of the assessed values with or without a tax override.
With or without a levy.
It's not the effects of the assessed value, really, right?
Yeah, it's the,
Not really.
it's
It's the
the,
effects of the
2.5.
2.5 override.
Well, isn't it a 2.5 increase and then a 2.5 override?
Yeah. Do we actually mention the value of the override?
nope, not yet, hadn't gotten there. Like I said, I was writing this thing at
Oh.
6:45. I was finishing that part of the paragraph. So yeah, the two portions we didn't really get into were the 40S and the override numbers specifically, because we hadn't voted on the override until last week. So I think even before we get down to the table, I think we need to put a portion in there addressing that there is an override article being brought forward to supplement the schools for $948,136. That way, at least it's out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we could get into how it's affected with and without the override. So I would do, after an override is a permanent increase to the tax levy spread out to all residents of the town. I would start,
Another sentence.
right,
What is that?
I'd make it a new paragraph, just say, because we're really talking about now
I agree, yeah.
the actual override. So
Yeah.
let's make it a new paragraph and say something about how we, how that was done. I don't know how you want to do that, but.
how many pages do we have? Okay, yeah, so you have a paragraph on what Prop 2.5 is, what an override is, and then go into, here's the override.
So after what the table is illustrating, with or without, then a new paragraph, right?
No, before
It should
that.
be before, and even before those last couple sentences we added.
Yeah, the last sentence of this paragraph should end with spread out to all residents of the town. And then a new paragraph.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
I mean, we may want to say something to the effect of after long deliberations of the school committee, select board, and finance committee,
I put town manager in there too.
town manager, superintendent.
And maybe the public input, because there was a lot of public input for sure.
And public input. A warrant article has been placed on, an article has been placed on the warrant, rather, for a Prop 2.5 override in the amount of the amount.
948, 136.
It is 948, 136?
That's what I had on my paper here.
No change, right? Yeah,
This-
we're gonna go with no change.
This amount
Yeah,
seeks to provide the school with a budget for level service, minus additional ESSER, minus the one, how do we want to say it, the,
Hang on a minute.
minus the ESSER funds,
The sunsetting ESSER
the
fund?
sunsetting ESSER funds, yeah, or sunsetted, sunsetted, the eclipsed.
It's a great eclipse, by the way. I saw it.
okay, can we read this, and then we can workshop it out?
Excuse me.
After long deliberations of the school committee, select board, town manager, and with public input, a warrant has been placed on the article for a Proposition 2.5 override in the amount of $948,136. This amount seeks to provide the school with a budget for level service minus the sunsetting ESSER funds.
Yeah, I would add to the list, finance committee and superintendent. Were they there?
After long deliberations of the school committee, finance committee, superintendent, select board, town manager, and with public input, a warrant has been placed on the article Proposition 2.5 override in the amount of $948,136. This amount seeks to provide the school with a budget for level service minus the sunsetting ESSER funds.
It's an article placed on the warrant, though.
An article placed on the warrant. Okay, that's changed.
And then I would say, in order for a Proposition 2.5 override to take effect, it must pass both town meeting and the ballot
Question.
question on, what is it, May 17th?
18th.
May 18th.
I don't care if it's poisoned.
We probably should say on this one that we recommended approval
Exactly where I was going next.
for,
4-2
4 to
4-2 with one absent.
with one absent member.
So the finance committee has recommended,
Or just recommends
recommends,
approval of the override article. And then in parentheses, 4-2. With one,
4-2-1.
4-2
It's 4-2 with one
absent.
absent.
Yeah, because she wasn't abstaining.
She didn't
just-
abstain.
Does that look like that one? 4-2-1.
No, 4-2, and then say with.
One
With
absent.
one
with
absent,
one
okay.
With one absent member.
Not in parentheses?
Keep it in the parentheses,
Yeah.
I think.
One member
It's part of the
absent,
vote.
One member absent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can get into the following table.
Yeah.
Before it says the following table, it says individual home assessed values can be found on the assessor's websites, and then it goes into the following table, which I still think is appropriate because you're guiding people to where they can find information about their assessment, right? 'Cause
Yes,
that's
but now I
added.
think we need to move it.
You could.
I'm okay with you guys kind of rearranging
okay.
and slightly making paragraphs
Yeah.
at this point.
So why don't we leave it like that, and then
Yep.
if people want to,
We'll wordsmith it.
Yeah, if it's just how it lays out on a page or something, and,
right.
I mean, that's just me, though, I don't know if everyone else is.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
You're fine.
Works for me.
Jay? Okay. Dave?
Okay.
I'm good at this point.
All right.
Is that everything we want to say about the override? I mean, it's everything that's factual.
That's all I ever want to ever talk about the override
I know.
again, but, yeah, I think it's factual, and it's,
Okay.
shows the impact.
Yep. All right, capital plan.
You want me to read this? Okay. Historically, the capital plan has been funded through free cash, tax revenues, and unspent capital appropriation from prior years. For fiscal year '25, the capital plan is funded exclusively through free cash, $1,016,722.36, and unspent capital was $300,397.62, appropriation from prior years. The proposed capital plan of $1,317,119.98 is a 35% decrease from fiscal year '24 capital funding. The reduction in capital plan spending is partly due to the loss of $340,000 of 40S state funds, and the allocation of $236,000 of certified new growth is being directed to the school department budget. The Finance Committee recommends the approval 6-1 of the FY '25 capital plan.
So I think that for fiscal year '25, where you say the million and the 300, it's a little awkward with the was.
I just switched it.
You guys working in the same document?
No, she's reading it. I'm working on it live. With what's on the screen. I know,
think
she's typing everything up. I just, for my own edification.
Okay. So what do you
Just
think it
edited
should
that one.
Okay, you gotta say that again though, because I don't know where to edit that now.
So it says now for FY '25, the capital plan is funded exclusively through free cash, and the dollar amount and unspent capital appropriation.
Was, appropriation was.
Just delete was,
Okay, so, okay,
and then move appropriation before the parentheses.
got it.
Unspent capital appropriation, dollar amount from prior years.
Okay.
All right, that's done. Any other edits?
Do we want to add anything else about the capital plan?
Just the 40S, I think it should be 40S state funds in the allocation of 236 of certified new growth that is being directed to the school department budget.
Done.
Okay. Looks good.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next paragraph then? Okay, the Finance Committee has proposed a warrant for a grant writer in the town of Lunenburg. The intention of hiring a person for this position would be to bring more funds to the town with the hope that this position would pay for itself from the acquired funds that otherwise would not exist. Through collaborative research, it was found that there are grants available that could offer additional funding for the preservation and revitalization of historical land and buildings, educational tools and technologies, the cemetery commission's needs, and the housing initiatives for seniors and veterans, among many others.
So, couple things. So, this isn't a standalone warrant article, is it?
No.
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 So it's
It's just in the budget.
It has proposed the
Recommended.
addition of a grant writer in the budget,
And
Grant
it's
writer
not-
services.
Yeah.
grant writing
You
services.
need to get that out of there.
Yep,
That
'cause we're not
that
hiring.
started since day one,
Yep.
and it keeps popping up. And it requested a line item, I would think,
Yeah.
or however you want to say it.
Recommended.
Okay, so
It's,
let's stick with sentence one so Tiffany
Yep.
can get it in there.
Right. So So the Finance Committee has recommended, right?
Inclusion of grant
Recommended,
writing
yeah.
services for the town of Lunenburg.
It needs to be, I think, should say a new line item for grant writer services.
Okay.
Is that, in effect, that's what it is.
So the Finance Committee has recommended a new line item,
Yep.
To fund grant writer services.
okay, to fund grant writing services in the town of Lunenburg,
Yep.
okay?
And the intention is outsourced.
We're not hiring
Yeah.
anybody.
Right.
For the town.
Because this is a consultant position. The intention of
Contracted,
So the intention is contracting a person,
contracted services.
contracting services instead of a person, okay.
Right.
I think you could take out the first 7 or 8 words and just say these services would be to bring more funds to the town.
In the second sentence?
Yeah, take out from the intention to the word position.
Can you read that sentence, Dave? Like the way that you're seeing it?
The proposal for grant writing services would bring more funds to the town. There's a couple words that need to be taken out of there, or,
Well, potentially bring more funds.
yeah, you can put potentially.
So there's almost two thoughts in there. The first one, we should state that the intention is to contract services. And then the second one is about the, why we're doing it. So the intention is to use these funds to contract services, to contract grant writing services, period.
So really take out most of that second sentence then.
Yeah.
So the intention is to contract services to bring more funds to the town? To potentially bring more funds to the
Yeah.
town?
And could we throw professional grant writing services in there?
Professional.
Of course.
Well, if it was amateur, we wouldn't need any money.
Well, the intent is professional, but we might get an amateur.
The intention is to contract professional services to potentially bring more funds to the town. Correct?
Yeah. More concise.
Okay, let me read those two sentences, because I feel like we workshopped those a lot. The Finance Committee has recommended a new line item to fund grant writing services in the town of Lunenburg. The intention is to contract professional services to potentially bring more funds to the town. So then we're on through collaborative research. So what are our thoughts?
Get rid of everything else and, until you get to through collaborative research, we found grants available that could be offered. So that's those first 2 sentences and then the last half of the paragraph would, that we found that there's grants available that we're not getting and that money could be used to help the town.
I think somewhere in there, if we can kind of slide it in also, is to, at least state what we came away from MMA thinking, that there's a lot of money moving forward that's going to be flowing through grant processes that we need to be able to take advantage of, and this is what we feel would be the best way to tap into that.
We really did hear a lot about a lot of different grants that were available to us, when we did go to MMA.
Already available, but there's also, my big concern was the fact that there's more stuff coming, that if somebody's not watching it, we could miss out.
Right.
Even the state DOER really isn't moving as quickly as many other states are with the DOE launching federal grant programs that the state has to apply for, that then in turn we need to apply for. But that's all coming down the pike. It's not existing even yet.
Right. Tom, did you mean take the sentence out that I highlighted and leave that in?
I mean, that sounds fine. Yeah, it was found that there are grants available, that's fine.
So change that to it was found.
I mean, either way, it does.
Okay.
The important point to get to people is that there's money available, and that the purpose of this is to get our fair share.
Okay, so now that reads, it was found that grants are available that could offer additional funding for the preservation and revitalization of historical land and buildings, educational tools and technologies, the cemetery commission's needs, and the housing initiatives for seniors and veterans, among many others.
Why are we leaving out infrastructure?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
I said, why are we leaving out infrastructure in that list of things? I mean, the big federal bill was an infrastructure bill.
I think we left it out because we didn't think of it.
What's that?
I think we didn't think of it, but we can add that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So
That may
you-
have come across a little gruff, but it just kind of,
Right.
please add it.
Where do you want to add that? Where do you want to add infrastructure?
Anywhere in the list.
After buildings, maybe?
Buildings, infrastructure, comma, educational tools?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, historical land and buildings, comma, infrastructure, comma, educational tools and technology. Is there anything else we want to add?
Did we take out the part about covering its own costs?
Yeah.
That did come out?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to,
Promise something we can't keep?
Exactly.
Okay.
right.
Okay.
It was also, reading it out loud too, it was wordy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, yeah, I think this is a more summarized version.
Okay. I'm good with it.
All right, we are moving on to
And there's-
noteworthy topics.
There's different ways of saying it paid for itself also, so,
Yeah.
we can talk about that after the fact instead of before the fact.
Hopefully, we're talking about that after
Right.
the fact. So, okay, noteworthy topics. Start with the first bullet. So the end of fiscal year '24 will see a 16.39% reduction of our debt service and excludable debt from $3,516,182.23 fiscal year '24 to $2,939,956.12 fiscal year '25. This decrease is the result of a reduction in the sewer debt and a reduction in the MSBA excludable debt. An analysis run by Unibank in 2023 projected a variety of scenarios to guide the town in debt capacity spending over the next 30 years. In total, the town continues to have $42 million that will be usable while remaining under debt capacity limits. With this number in mind, the Select Board, Municipal Design Committee, and the town will be better prepared to plan for the future. Town policy dictates not borrowing more than 4% of our operating budget for non-excludable debt. Currently, the town maintains approximately 0.7% of our operating budget in non-excludable debt. While there is debt capacity, there currently does not exist a funding source.
I think that needs to be another sentence, the last one there. After the while there is debt capacity, while needs to be a new sentence.
Yeah.
So non-excludable debt, period, while there is debt capacity, there currently does not exist a funding source.
Correct.
Okay, done.
And we need to put Municipal Building Design Committee.
You don't want to design the municipality?
Sure.
All right, done.
Just exempt that to the elementary school heating system project. That was in
Thank you. I knew it, yes. Okay. So this decrease is the result of a reduction in the sewer debt, comma,
Wait.
second sentence.
Yep.
Well, no, we had the MSBA excludable debt.
$4.
That's the difference.
It was the other larger one.
Okay. Okay, so how do we want to word that one then? That is, it's the primary school excludable debt.
HVAC,
Okay. So we can just say primary school heating exempt debt.
The primary school heating exempt debt.
Yep. Comma, and a reduction in MSBA excludable debt for $4.20.
Done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good with that.
Any other comments?
was it for heating or air conditioning?
The heating or what?
The primary school, for heating or air conditioning?
Let me pull it up. I just happen to have the table right here. What am I thinking of? They don't have it right here. Are we sure it's the heating? Okay, we'll double check.
Jay, I'm gonna highlight that.
When did we
while they're
take
checking.
that on?
I have no idea.
I must have been missing in action when that happened.
After we find out what it is, I'll ask how long it's been around.
Okay.
That still does work out to $576,000, I think. 576,691 plus 2939956.12. 3516. Oh, it is a different number. 647.12. Okay. Can you highlight the $3 million, the $2 million, and the 16.39%? Just want to,
Okay, highlight 3 million, highlight 2 million.
and the 16.39%. And I'll make sure, we'll make sure that those are correct. The town manager had offered to check our numbers for us, so we'll
Okay.
get proper numbers in
And
there for
then
sure.
the primary school heating is highlighted as well for now until,
Yep.
okay. All right, do we want to move on to the next bullet?
Well, I just wanted to,
Sure.
maybe, it says in total, the town continues to have $42 million that will be usable while remaining under the debt capacity limit. Maybe that, could it be just that the town has $42 million available? Or something like that. It's just a little wordy there, and I'm just not sure.
It's
people
not
are gonna-
available unless it becomes a debt, excludable debt, so it's not available.
Right. It's not like we have it sitting in
We
the
have the
coffers.
No, it's not
Ability
there, but I
of-
mean, we could use it, it could, well, yeah, okay,
Do you want to use the word would instead of will, like 42 million that would be usable while remaining under debt capacity limits?
Is that under debt capacity limits, or is that the levy ceiling? Like, what do you, or?
No, that's under the debt schedule, you know, town manager's famous slide that she
That's the
shows.
policy? The 9%? Or whatever?
That's our, yeah, the 14% is
The
the,
11%.
yeah, the 11% and the 4% for net excludable and non-excludable. So if we total those ones up, we end up with a capacity of $42 million as we have other things falling off over the next 30 years. This was the report that we had requested last year.
And that 42 million is limited by the 11%,
Correct.
not the aggregate of the two.
Correct, yep. But,
So then I think it should say debt capacity policy limits.
Okay, so do you want to change 42 million to that would be usable?
it's not usable, though. We have to, because it's debt capacity spending, we would have to take on well, we'd have to go out and actually get someone to give us a bond and finance a building, basically, and then we can actually start levying that amount out of the taxpayers. So it's not like it's just sitting available, so it needs to be worded, we need to make sure we're wording it absolutely correctly.
How about could it become available?
Yeah, I just
Potential to
thought it looked
borrow.
wordy, but I understand what
Yeah.
the chairman's trying to say, so I don't want to
Yeah, Jay
say
just,
something that's not 100% accurate
yeah,
either.
Jay just said potential borrowing, which I
Potential
think
to
more
borrow
people
up to-
understand.
Yeah.
Potential borrow up to 42 million.
Per the policy.
Yes.
Policy,
Policy.
right.
Okay.
Okay, how does that sentence read?
Yeah, Jay.
So in-
Potential to borrow up to 42 million per the debt, per our debt policy. And can we make that like 42M instead of all those zeros?
Sure.
Yeah.
$4.2 times 10 to the 7th.
Yes. Wedge.
I prefer. 4.2 E7.
So we have it down as elementary school, high school, heating system. It was done in 2016.
Okay.
Could you repeat?
What was it
Elementary
for?
school, high school heating system is what it was called.
Not primary school.
Nope.
Okay, so
So elementary school / high school heating. And it was in 2016.
And there was Turkey Hill?
That's the elementary school, so yeah. It's before I moved here, so I don't know.
For like a new boiler? Think a new boiler system?
I don't know.
Heather, what was that, though? A bond, or was it a exempted borrowing article?
I don't know, I just have the amounts in the schedule. And when the date that I took out the debt.
Yeah, because if it's Turkey Hill, they replaced the boiler system over there around that time.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's
Okay.
that's what would be, and at the time, I thought it was still middle school, but maybe not.
Did they convert to gas or something?
It's true.
It was something to do with condensing boilers and then fuel type, yeah. As long as it's not the old high school parking lot.
Just put debt capacity policy limits.
So that kind of encapsulates what everyone's
I
saying,
think so.
right? Debt capacity policy, you said, right?
Debt capacity policy limits.
Okay, so I'm going to go back and read from the second sentence of that bullet.
Okay.
So this decrease is the result of a reduction in the sewer debt, the elementary school / high school heating exempt debt, and a reduction in the MSBA excludable debt. An analysis run by Unibank in 2023 projected a variety of scenarios to guide the town in debt capacity spending over the next 30 years. In total, the town has potential to borrow up to 42 million that will be usable while remaining under debt capacity policy limits. So that is what was amended. That sound better?
Yeah, sounds good.
If that's the case, then we want to change the 4% portion because that's based on the 42 million is based on the 11% policy of excludable debt.
So I'll highlight 4% with the 16.39 and the 3 mil and the 2 mil.
I think we can just change it directly, because it's our debt capacity policy that the $42 million is based on is on excludable debt, which has a limit of 11% of our operating budget, excuse me.
So
So,
change the 4 to 11.
It can, so town policy dictates not borrowing more than 11% of our operating budget for excludable debt.
Done.
And take out instead of non-excludable, it's excludable debt.
Done.
And that we currently maintain, as of FY '24, 7.84% instead of 0.7%.
So that sentence reads that currently the town maintains approximately 7% of our operating budget.
Well,
Do we need to get into all that?
I don't think we do, because it's going to get really confusing really fast, because this now takes out the second part of the sentence, which is we do have a funding source for that. It's you levy excludable debt. It's the non-excludable debt that doesn't have a funding source. So I think we just take out the whole town policy dictates portion. We just leave it at, with this number in mind, the select board, MBDC, and the town will be better prepared to plan for the future.
Yeah, because we're
Period.
more or less trying to tell the public what is available,
Right.
not what's
how we're
not
gonna pay-
available.
Right, exactly,
So we're deleting the last two sentences of the paragraph.
completely.
All right, let's do it.
Yep.
Done.
Never existed.
I
Okay.
think that's a subject that we need to make sure the task force discusses thoroughly as to how we're going to get back to a position where we can do short-term borrowing, because there's a lot of pluses to short-term borrowing in certain scenarios.
Small overrides. Like those towns.
From my
I don't think we
experience,
deliberated on that much, though, throughout this year, so I don't know that it's worthy of being in our report.
No, I agree, and that's kind of what I think that's why those two sentences should come out as well.
Okay.
What the reason for putting that last sentence in there, at least for now, was to acknowledge that that's probably more leaning on bias than fact at this point, is why I think I probably put it out there, is that it does kind of lead towards well, if we don't have the money to spend it, we clearly don't have enough money, so therefore override, which I think that gets more into positioning rather than factual. So I think they should come out, because we didn't really deliberate it.
Ready for our next bullet?
No, because this one's baffling me.
This was a tough one to try and get through.
All right, we're going to take this on. Ready? All right. The Municipal Building Design Committee, various previous iterations of this committee discuss on an ongoing basis the buildings in town that are in significant need of repairs, replacements, and recurring maintenance to avoid ongoing repairs. I think we should workshop that sentence first.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to read the
Why do
whole
we
paragraph.
need it?
So we did, so one of our lines that we said we were going to get into, which was pretty broad-based, was statement of the upcoming needs, services, buildings, upkeep, expansion, replacement, salary, etc. It was an extremely ambiguous bullet point.
Yeah, just, that lead-in sentence, though, is, do we even need it?
Well, it addresses what we've done in the past, and that there is a committee dedicated to that process.
Well, the Municipal Building Design Committee has not briefed us in about a year and a half, so I don't know why they're mentioned here.
That's why the various iterations is put in there as well, to address the last, what was it called before? Master something or other?
Building Reuse Committee.
Yeah.
Do we want to say that? Like, instead of various previous iterations of this committee, we say, what was it, Jay?
Well, that was
Well,
the old
with the,
committee.
That was one of the-
first committee was the Building Reuse Committee.
We'll just say that, we just say that it's, we don't have to really define who did it, but
Yeah.
it is
It's more
clear
about what-
that
it's more-
there is, I mean, you know, we don't, it's irrelevant
Yeah.
who's done it. But it's clear that the buildings need repair, maintenance, and actually probably in modifications.
How about we just drop the first sentence and workshop the second one?
There we go.
To take that into
I agree.
account.
That's what I was thinking.
So just take the whole thing out and just start with, the town will need to invest serious funds over the next 5 to 10 years to mitigate more building disrepair.
But we could add on to that too, get into.
All right, so that's now going to be the first sentence of this bullet.
Yes.
Okay, we're
So
going
to
to,
me, without wordsmithing yet, the town is facing the need to fund building repairs, perhaps new buildings, and infrastructure. So to me, that's all kind of like capital, right? Large capital items. So the town is facing many large capital items for building repair, and infrastructure.
Somewhere, though, in there, we need to make the point that if we don't get our general maintenance into a timely schedule, that what he just listed is going to be exacerbated tenfold, because if we don't take care of anything, then we're back to build it, don't do anything to it for 20 years and tear it down, or it falls down.
Becomes a 30 school street, which is quickly becoming a TCP.
Well, maybe that could be at the end of a paragraph that says, that talks about this, and to say that we encourage you know, but get this thing done first, that we first need to invest or maybe expend money over the next 5 to 10 years to improve the town's buildings
And infrastructure.
and infrastructure.
And then I think, Dave, your point on operational maintenance planning is also a valid but additional point.
That could be a bullet point on its own, just, you know.
Yeah, because even like salary administration seems like its own bullet as well.
Like I said, we had just the list, so we just threw it all into a single bullet because it was on
Right.
number.
No, that's fine.
You just, I think
Let's
the
just
first
work
attempt
on
is
it.
just throw everything
yeah.
down onto the paper, and then we can sift through it and figure out how to,
We can let ChatGPT finish it for us.
yes, that's how everything will happen in the future.
Isn't this what AI is for?
That's what I said, yeah.
So I've made salary administration a new bullet. We'll, move on to that one. And I think the rest of this kind of needs some more workshopping. So the town is facing many large capital items for the buildings, building repairs, and infrastructure, and the town will need to invest serious funds over the next 5 to 10 years to mitigate more building disrepair.
Shouldn't we say just something like the finance committee recommends urgent plans to be established associated with these major capital improvements?
At the end,
Or instead of.
Huh?
Or instead
Yeah.
of.
Instead of what?
Everything else, just one sentence.
Yeah, or, I mean, state what the problem is and then make that recommendation.
And just, yeah, call it quits there. Take out the part about what's paying for it.
Take out the part of what?
The funding sources. And replace that with what the finance committee recommends.
Right, yeah, I actually agree with that. So,
Where is that?
so you want to keep the language of the town is facing many large capital items for the buildings, building repairs, and infrastructure, and the town will need to invest serious funds over the next 5 to 10 years to mitigate more building disrepair. So how does everyone feel about that sentence as the opening sentence to the paragraph?
I think serious funds should probably be significant funds. I don't
Yeah.
know what, like,
I agree.
They have a grumpy face on them.
So the next sentence, listening to everyone that I jotted down, is recurring operational maintenance and planning is imperative to allocating funds productively. And that kind of talks about keeping up on these buildings so that the town is not spending more money on buildings that are about to fall down.
And then we could say the finance committee recommends
Yeah. What are you-
immediate action.
urgency in establishing plans for infrastructure, buildings.
What is the finance committee?
And facilities operations,
We're recommending what in particular, though?
plans for those.
Urgent.
Plans,
Yeah.
urgent plans. Urgent planning?
Urgent planning, yeah.
For these capital items and maintenance?
Sure.
Thoughts? All right, and then we're in agreement, we're going to take out the whole funding sources, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me clean that up. All right, I'm going to read that back because it's become a shorter paragraph. The town is facing many large capital items for the buildings, building repairs, and infrastructure, and the town will need to invest significant funds over the next 5 to 10 years to mitigate more building disrepair. Recurring operational maintenance and planning is imperative to allocating funds productively. The Finance Committee recommends urgent planning for these capital items and maintenance.
Still sounds a little bit choppy, but
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Sounds, yeah.
It does. I think it's a little redundant between recurring operational maintenance and planning is imperative, and the Finance Committee recommends urgent planning for these capital items. What if we took the period out and said allocating funds productively and the Finance Committee recommends urgent planning for these capital items and maintenance?
Give it a shot. We can always, I mean, we could fix it, fix the syntax of it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
The main points are down there. As long as we don't change the general premise of it, we can
Okay,
fix the order of things and make it read more smoothly.
okay. Everyone else is fine with it?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on.
SAP.
So, change to the salary
This is
adminis-
going to be its own bullet.
Yeah, this is now its own bullet.
I have numbers for you when you're ready to.
All right. So when I say blank, you say number.
Exactly.
Change to the salary administration plan, if approved at the town meeting, offers an appropriate first step at addressing employee retention within town departments. There are currently multiple open positions within the town of Lunenburg, and for a variety of reasons, low salaries have been consistently mentioned. The proposed SAP changes will increase the FY '24 salary line by,
Salary reserve line.
salary reserve, done, line by,
$89,771.61. Has that changed at all? Do you know? Have these numbers from the SAP committee changed at all? Okay.
okay, and the FY '25 salary line by,
Salary reserve line again.
Yep.
This one is $110,948.87.
okay, let me read that back. Okay, the proposed SAP changes will increase the FY '24 salary reserve line by $89,771.61, and the FY '25 salary reserve line by $110,948.87. Close bullet.
We could end it
That
by
is-
saying something like the finance committee looks forward to additional consideration by the SAP committee, or continued, I don't know.
Let's leave it alone.
But we like what they're doing.
What,
Actually agree.
Dave wants
What?
them to go to PTO.
Was it one of the
That's
warrants?
right.
It's
Was
two of
one
the
of the
warrants.
warrants the,
what's the article number?
Give me 1 sec.
shouldn't we,
We recommended
we
it
recommended it?
We did.
Do you want to say?
unanimously, right?
I believe it was
You
unanimous.
recommended that unanimously?
Yeah,
Should we enter the
Article-
article? The
Article
finance
number
committee
of
recommends.
yeah, well, let's see what our chairman has for the letter now, right? I think it's,
Unanimously, right?
yeah, I don't remember, I didn't write down what it was.
Article number of the
I'll give you the number and
town
whether it was
meeting is
unanimous
to
after I
address
find the number.
the salary administration plan.
OPEB, Historical Commission.
Do you want to say that, the salary administration plan in there?
It was 9 and 10.
In Articles 9 and 10?
Article 9 was amending the code, Chapter 70, Schedule A, for adding and changing and amending position titles and grades. Article 10 is the wage schedule.
Yeah, so it'd be 10,
So it's 10, and we recommended approval.
7-0, right?
What was it before?
I think we did it the first time, so we were all here.
We had Gene with us, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, 7-0.
So the finance committee unanimously recommended the salary administration plan in Article 10.
Recommended approval,
Say that again?
recommended
Recommended
approval
approval.
of the salary administration plan. Address salary wages to help improve
Employee retention.
employee retention and staffing.
Employee retention and what was the other one?
Staffing,
And you can probably put, after approval, 7-0.
Yes, yep.
In parentheses, right?
Yep.
Okay, the finance committee unanimously recommended 7-0, the salary administration plan and the salary wages to help improve employee retention and staffing in Article 10.
Yeah, I think the basis is there for sure. Looking again.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything on that? We're good?
I think it should say we recommended approval of Article 10 at the beginning, not the end. 7-0 to approve.
Okay, so add
The
to
adj-
approve.
the Personnel Committee's recommended salary administration plan. Now it's-
Okay. All right, I have that down. Does anyone else have any comments on that one?
I think we're good.
Okay, the only thing I have on 40S,
I just emailed you something,
Is
I
that
just
Chris Menard?
copy and pasted it.
Ooh,
So,
you're good.
and I
read it.
emailed it to you, Heather, so you can make sure I'm not lying.
Misrepresenting
Just put Chris Menard says,
Yeah.
and then we're all good.
the,
According to Chris.
the,
World according to Chris.
So late in FY '24, Lunenburg was told that we no longer qualified for 40S Smart Growth State funding. This impacts both FY '24 and FY '25 and resulted in a reduction of X amount of dollars in our cherry sheet allocation in FY '25. The FY '24 reduction further impacted free cash estimates for FY '25.
Is that accurate?
So, within both years, reduction of about 340,000. And it was taken off our cherry sheet right away, and then we found out. So it's a reimbursement, so let's say 40S Smart Growth reimbursement that shows up on our cherry sheet as state aid. And then the fiscal '24, I wouldn't necessarily say, it will just affect the closeout of fiscal '24. It will,
Wouldn't that have resulted in free cash in '25?
it will indirectly, but it's going to be how we conservatively estimated our local receipts, and those are above our estimates, so we'll be able to make it.
Yeah, we'll be able to make it up, but if it was still there in '24 and wasn't taken away, wouldn't we have had an extra 340 in free cash?
In the closeout of the year, which is a number of factors, the appropriation numbers and revenues, so expenditures and revenues.
Mhm.
That's what affects your ultimate year free cash.
So bottom line, is that last statement without a value accurate, or should it just be removed?
I mean, it's ultimately will affect our free cash.
But it won't be a $340,000.
Right, but it's not like a direct,
Right. It's not a one-for-one affecting.
because that number,
I think the important point is that we lost revenue. 24 and 25. And I guess the question would be is that, we don't know what the future holds, but it doesn't, I'm not sure what the, if we'll get money in '26. I mean, we don't know. Are we sure we're not going to get it? I haven't really heard much on that.
Yeah, we don't know. I think this is one area where our legislators are trying to fix that again for us, but we don't know in '26.
Well, it's also, remember, it's not a direct funding source, or it's not like Chapter 90 where we get the number and that's what comes to us. It's reimbursed at the end of the fiscal year, or towards the third quarter of the fiscal year.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
So
still
we
money.
can sort of plan on it, but that doesn't mean we're guaranteed to get it, which was the issue with this one.
Well, the issue with this one was, yeah, sort of.
Didn't we know how much we could get reimbursed for, the max, and then, or,
They just,
or an estimate of that, and then we get it, so we have it in our budget. So it basically, we're losing potential revenue, I guess, is probably the right word. So maybe our response is that we recommend that the town continues to work with our legislators to help us, the state legislators, to get, to determine, or something. I'm not thinking.
I think a separate bullet should be that we encourage members of the community and our town officials to continue working with our legislators to,
I'll put their email addresses in there, in all seriousness.
well, I don't know if you need, maybe.
I suppose it is on the website, if people really want
It is.
to, you know. So,
You can, I guess, just remove that last statement.
I didn't
I
remove
see.
anything, I just added, the Finance Committee recommends the members of our community and our town officials work with our state legislatures.
I would put that as its own bullet at the end, though, because
At the end
Oh.
of,
Everything.
everything.
all right.
Because the whole point of this is that we're trying to figure out how to make this work with the funds that we have.
Right.
The final takeaway is, oh, by the way, there is also a state aspect to this, which pressure can be applied from everywhere.
I'll add to that later.
So, do you
Enough of
think
this.
it's better to leave the numbers off of this for now and just say, late in FY '24, Lunenburg was told that we no longer qualified for 40S Smart Growth State funding. This impacts both FY '24 and FY '25 as a reduction of income or a reduction of funds, and not put a number in?
Reduction of reimbursement
Of
of
reduction.
expenditures.
I just said on the cherry sheet, because that's a true statement. You know, cherry,
Yeah.
And resulted in a reduction of $340,000 in our cherry sheet allocation in FY '25.
right.
Or
So
cherry sheet reimbursement,
Yeah,
cherry sheet reimbursement.
reimbursement, yeah.
because we're specifically calling out 40S.
And you could say the FY '24 reduction further impacted operations in the current fiscal, in the FY '24 fiscal year.
So the FY '24 reduction further impacted operations in the current fiscal.
In fiscal year '24, don't say current, because that's confusing, yes.
Yeah, how was that covered? Was that covered out of just free cash? Yes. How did we make up how did we make up that loss
for
of
the
reimbursement? For this year? So we'll just have a lessened free cash amount,
Right.
right? Which sets us up for FY '25 as $340,000 under our free cash that we would have been anyways.
That's why I think it all ends up being free cash.
Is that correct? But when we found out that we weren't getting $340,000 in reimbursement for 40S, we didn't go to the schools and say, you need to give us $340,000. We just said, okay, we'll take it out of what we have available, which is, well, we will.
We knew we had enough to cover at the end of this year based on our actual versus our estimates. We covered that.
Okay. So our actual new growth, our actual receipts,
Actual local receipts. Conservative
right,
budget is cover that deficit.
okay. So we didn't actually have to do a transfer or anything from free cash, okay.
Is that appropriate to be in here, like the conversation?
I mean, we could again address conservative, fiscal responsibility allowed for,
I think we've hit on that already.
which we did talk about at the
Yeah.
beginning.
I just think you want to hit on the 40S as being contributing to,
Additional stress on the budget.
So although it's a small paragraph, everyone feels like it's kind of encapsulating what needs to be said.
yeah, I mean, it stressed our fiscal year '25 budget, and honestly, it probably put a capital item below the line. Because in the end, it would have turned into free cash.
Because we usually take those additional local receipts above what we predict or what we
However you
report for.
close out the books.
And we close it
pluses
out
and
with-
minus, it ends up as free cash.
Right, because we've already spent
Right.
what we said we were expecting to get, and anything above and beyond that has nowhere to go other than free cash. With this year, it went to continuously, or to figure out, or to fill in the hole that we have. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that, or? We're good?
Yep.
All right, moving on. Second to last bullet.
No, it's not.
Why did you add more?
There's 4 more that we added from last week that we can we didn't even touch on the task force yet.
Okay, so we have nothing on them?
We don't have the task force in there, we don't have the police hiring plan paused, and we don't have all the other positions being paused,
Okay.
which I think either Dave or Jay brought up earlier.
All right, let's keep going then.
Yep.
So fair share funds, millionaire's tax, have begun to make their way into Lunenburg. The town has seen an increase in Chapter 90 funds of $240,503 to be used for roads and transportation. Additionally, school meals remain free. An associate's degree at local community colleges for those over 25 years of age is free, and encourage the school committee, and the finance committee encourages the school committee to research funding for upgrades for facilities improvements in schools K through 12.
That's an awkward.
That's a very awkward.
Why
It is an
that?
awkward
What's that to do with the
So-
fair share?
Say that again?
What's that got to do with the fair share?
So the 3 things that so after our meeting where we talked about, have we actually seen anything for the schools? Because it was supposed to be pushed towards Chapter 90 in schools.
Yes.
Mr. Leighton reached out to me and sent me an article that explained exactly kind of where it was going towards the school side of things. And the 3 portions that he kind of highlighted were the school meals being free,
Yeah.
the associate's degree for those over 25 being free, and then upgrades for facilities improvements in K through 12 schools. But that's all it said. So that's why we were saying, well, we haven't seen any of that, and we haven't heard any of that from the schools, so we encourage the school committee to reach out and say what's available, because I haven't seen anything come in from that.
I don't know.
All I've seen Lunenburg get is free lunches,
How did we even get that? That's,
All schools have free lunches.
because it's all schools in the state get free lunches.
Yeah.
See, that's something that came up last weekend when I was talking with other finance committee members from around the state, is that there's other revenue sources that come into the school that don't even hit the town's budgets. Do we see an accounting for that?
yeah. They stated, the state grants and the federal
Should be in their
grants.
budget.
Yeah,
We do.
School budget.
Dr. Burnham has a whole slide on it that she does, where she talks about what grants they've brought in.
All
Right.
those grants attract in the town GL as well, the special revenue funds.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, sort of.
Okay, so I agree with the first 2 sentences on here, but I didn't see any dollar value make its way through the budget to the schools. And associate's degrees has nothing to do with our budget,
Nope.
Yeah, yeah.
so I would strike
It's all-
that.
That's college.
I mean, personally, I would put a statement here that the state has not met its promise as to using the millionaire's tax for schools.
The state has not met its.
Well, I don't know if we want to,
Yeah,
Don't know exactly.
that's an
Associate
opinion.
degree is.
it's not an opinion, it's a fact, but
Well, it depends on what you consider schooling to be. If you're encompassing it as just school in general, an associate's degree is schooling, so it does meet that. It just doesn't help anyone in our town that's
Well, that's what we're
under
talking
12th grade.
about, our school budget.
Yeah, it doesn't help our school budget, it
Yeah,
might
it
help
has no
people in our
effect on our
town.
school budget.
Right, right.
So if we take out from associate's degree,
I would just take out additionally onto the end. We haven't seen anything in the schools.
okay. So take out the finance committee recommends, the school committee looks,
Or do we,
researches.
or do we address it that other than free school meals
But how does that get to us? That's probably an unfunded mandate. It's
Well,
probably
no.
negatively affecting us.
It would be directly on the parents to pay for it. If the parents wanted to have school lunches, we have RevTrak accounts that we're supposed to put money into. And if we want, and our kids go in, they buy lunch, and we have to pay for those lunches. That doesn't exist anymore. RevTrak still exists, and if they want a second meal, they have to pay
That's
for
fine,
that.
but how, through the budget, does free school meals get to them?
Through the budget, it does not, but it is still a school-related expense. It just takes it
Exactly.
off of the parents as opposed to off
But I
of the
don't-
town.
But as a finance committee, that's not my charge. My charge is analyzing the budget. How does free meals at the schools occur? Where's the funding line for that? I think the town is paying for that, not
they are.
the millionaire's tax. I think this is another unfunded mandate.
No, the
State not funding it?
the state's funding the
Yeah.
cost of the food and so on
How?
through how they did it during COVID. All meals were free. They did it the same way.
These are the
I don't know
numbers
the
that I was
exact way,
talking
but-
about a few minutes ago. We don't see where these revenues are coming from.
So there's been $1 billion in fair share spending in the current budget adopted last summer. 523.5 million will be spent on education and 476.5 million on transportation. So part of that 523.5 million went to fund all schools in the state's lunches. So I wouldn't call that an unfunded mandate, it's called that directly paying to the
It
schools.
doesn't come through the budget.
It does not come through the budget, no, but it
So I
never
don't
does
think we
anyways.
should mention it.
Well, I guess we could put in there that as of now, there hasn't been any direct funding to local K through 12. You can say that,
Right.
maybe. That, and then maybe,
I am curious about this facility improvements at K through 12 schools portion. Because that sounds like there's money out there for all of the issues that our buildings are currently facing.
Right.
Like 523.5 million.
Is it through grants, though, or is it through?
That's why we put in we recommend this, or we encourage the school committee to look into it. 'Cause we could, but it's not our charge. It's on our buildings.
It is our charge. There are buildings,
They have superintendency over them.
the same way that the select board has it over the other buildings.
Yeah.
But we're over everything. Okay, so
Do you want to hear what I took out, or I have highlighted to take out?
sure.
All right, because this is short, I'll start again. So fair share funds, millionaire's tax have begun to make their way into Lunenburg. The town has seen an increase in Chapter 90 funds of $240,503 to be used for roads and transportation. As of now, there has been no direct funding through 4 grades K through 12. And the closing sentence could be, the Finance Committee encourages the school committee to research funding for upgrades for facilities improvements
Or
in
just-
schools K through 12.
You can just say through facilities improvements. That's their jurisdiction, is K through 12.
All right, so what are the thoughts about,
I'm fine with that.
as of now, there has been no direct funding for grades K through 12? Instead of through?
Well, why don't we just say?
Direct budgetary funding,
For the school department.
yeah.
Okay, there has been no direct budgetary funding for the school department. All right, anything else?
Nope. I like the last bullet.
So according to npr.org, take it as it is, $224 million will go to K through 12 programs, including free lunch and implementing, quote, clean energy in schools. So, I don't know. I encourage the school committee to reach out to the governors.
Solar.
I encourage repealing the millionaire's tax.
All right, we moving on to what we have listed as our last budget now?
Sure.
Okay. The Finance Committee has initiated conversations and advocated for the consolidation and streamlining of redundant departments and services between the town and the schools. It is anticipated that these conversations will continue past this budget season to be initiative-taking for upcoming seasons.
I'm good with that.
At the end of that sentence, the end of that paragraph, do we then want to insert what I've left highlighted to say, the Finance Committee recommends the members of our community and our town officials work with our state legislators?
I'd put it as a bullet point above it.
Okay, so in between us recommending the school committee to research funding for upgrades, we're also going to, so a totally separate bullet that says the Finance Committee recommends members of our community, our town officials work with legislature, right?
Well, and then we could expand on that to advocate for additional revenue sources for the town.
What was our cherry sheet increase this year to last?
Well,
It's a decrease, isn't it? It's a decrease this year.
Negative-
Yeah, we have a
negative
negative
decrease.
cherry sheet this year.
Because of the,
I think it was 111.
Yeah, I'll pull it up exactly, or at least from what,
I think that should be the lead into that bullet.
yeah.
The fiscal year '25 cherry sheet decreased from fiscal year '24 by,
Old.
hold,
Wait for it. I'm scrolling. It's last year.
As a result of,
Decreased by 1.04%. Nope, hang on, that's total.
percentage.
That's total, that's total.
what'd you say, Jay?
Don't you get a financial number, not a percent?
Somewhere. Local receipts, available funds.
Budget number.
This is the FY '25 available funds, correct? Is it the, no,
No, the cherry sheet.
I had it as the cherry sheet, but that's free cash. That's the enterprise budgets. What's this one here? Oh, it is for Lunenburg, okay.
111,752.
111,752.
Even, right? Thank you. So the FY '25 cherry sheet decreased by $111,752,
What did you say, the what?
right here.
Yeah, from FY '24.
does that include the 40S?
Yes, and would you like the exact number for the 40S? I have that too now. If we want to scroll up instead of, it's worse than 340, it's 342 and change.
Okay, so from FY '24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that is, well, that's not all, because we have other bullets to work on.
Yeah, we lost veterans benefits, we lost school choice tuition, and we lost smart growth. Those three decreased for this year.
Do you want to add that?
Um,
No.
Not specifically, no.
Veterans benefits, that's a reimbursement, isn't it?
Yeah, our veterans benefits went from, they dropped $500. They dropped from 53,300 to 52,800. So I would assume that means we've lost a few veterans. I assume, correct? If it's a reimbursement on veterans benefits.
So is that the lead-in, though, to encouraging folks to
I think that's the perfect lead in for it.
speak to the legislators about,
That sentence actually is before it, so it says, "The Finance Committee recommends the members of our community," and then it talks about, so you want to say the FY '25 cherry sheet decreased by,
right?
from, and then the sentence
That's what I would,
behind it.
yeah, that's how I would recommend the lead-in to it.
Okay. All right, done.
Do you want to scroll back up to the 40, the 40S number specifically? The 340K? Since we're giving exact numbers for everything else.
So this impacts both FY '24 and FY '25 and result in a reduction of $340,000.
It's actually $342,192.
Yeah. $342,191?
$92.
$92. Okay, that's done. Those are all of the bullets we have written.
So the last two would just be the hiring freezes, or the position increases, the salary increases on hold. If we want to address that. or acknowledge.
Salary increases.
So all of the, not salary increases, the town manager explained it a much better way than I did. There we go. Due to recent developments and discussions with our current trash hauler, nope, yes. And the recent vote by the Personnel Committee on recommended compensation and classification schedule for non-union employees for FY '25, the following changes need to be made to the preliminary budget. So that includes the solid waste increasing to prepare for when that goes through the roof. The reserve account, reserve fund account going up, the salary reserve line going up to cover the SAP stuff, and then the cutting the additional hours for IT admin, cutting the additional hours for the Council on Aging, the additional hours to the rec department director, the teen librarian, the data collector line, the IT hardware line, and the active health insurance line.
So couldn't the cuts in hours be all rolled up into the discussion we had on the desired budgets in one of the first paragraphs that we talked about?
I mean, yes and no. The reason for these is primarily because of Harvey. Right?
Put Harvey
But they're not-
aside. You were talking about the hours, I thought.
But so all of this changed because of the discussions with our current trash hauler and the recent vote by the Personnel Committee. So those two events is what led to all of this other stuff happening.
But
So-
they're not cuts, they're just not being
They're
funded.
not increasing,
Right.
right? They're not getting the requested increases in hours.
So could we, I mean, what do, if I'm the reader of this, I'm a citizen here, could we say something about the only budget, the budget was because of these items, the only new, I think we hired the assessor data collector,
But
right?
that line's being cut from, I think, 10,000 to 5,000, or 15 to 30,000 to 25, okay.
But that's a new position, right?
Yes.
So that's the only new position, so we should basically say that, and, you know, and that, I mean, I don't know if that's gonna create an issue, but I think that's obviously a good thing to do, based on what we know from last year. But, I'm just thinking, what do they, as the citizens, can absorb in this? We give them too much, they're gonna just glaze over and not say anything. So so I'm just trying to think,
What's our second paragraph, the beginning of our second paragraph say? Because I thought we addressed
So it says, "The process of developing and presenting a budget to the annual town meeting begins in the early fall with the town manager meeting with department heads to discuss expenses, wants, and needs." That's the first sentence of the second paragraph. So what we're discussing, I think my first question is, where does it belong in the report?
Or does it belong in the report?
Or does it, yeah.
I agree, I think,
I just think it's kind of boiled up into that expenses, wants, and needs. And I thought we had something in here about level service, but
well, my concern is that by putting these in, it almost sounds like there's like a hiring freeze or an pay increase
Oh, it's
freeze,
just-
which is not
it was the first.
actually the case. It's just,
This one,
we have a large
the second one.
trash bill coming potentially.
Right. There are positions that continue to remain unfilled for various reasons.
But these are all, these are all filled positions. I believe, with the exception of the, do we have a
Okay,
data
no,
collector
so
yet? We don't have
As
a
a
data
result,
collector yet.
many of the
It's a
town's
new line.
departments
Right.
are currently operating below their desired budget.
We changed that from,
Yeah.
we changed the word to desired on
Right.
here, right?
So I just think,
That incorporates all of this. Okay,
Okay, so we don't need,
no,
all right, so that's one,
checked.
does everyone agree with that?
Is there any thought of, instead of just budgets, budgets and staffing levels? Right in that sentence that you just,
you could say that.
So-
Yeah.
because
So-
that's
incorporates the
what,
police
that's what we
department.
pulled back on was staffing levels. Most of it was, planned, well-thought-out staffing increases that we had to pull them all back.
Right,
So that would then read, the town's conservative practices for many years, the town was able to make it through difficulties of some financial instability. As a result, many of the town's departments are currently operating below their desired budget and staffing levels.
In staffing levels.
Okay, so that's
Good with that.
changed.
yeah, and that takes into account the hours and the police officer position and all of that, yeah.
Okay, so then we have one more,
Just the task force.
okay, where does
Budgets.
Finance
that
committee
belong?
recommends a financial task force, check.
In a budget task
That will
force.
solve all our
Budget
problems.
task force.
So is,
Well-
where does that belong?
Comprised of.
You'll need
I
volunteers
guess,
for.
first of all, do we need to take a vote on this? Because do we actually recommend it? We've,
No,
We talked about it a lot, but I don't think we
We
ever
don't need to.
voted on it. If we did,
I mean, is anyone outwardly against having a budget task force to look through everything?
No.
Okay. We'll wait until Dave gets back just to make sure, but yeah, unless someone has a disagreement with it, I don't think we need a vote on it, but.
That's gonna be under the Board of Select Board, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it would have to be made from the board, from the select board.
Doesn't have to.
It does.
Why?
We can't make a subcommittee or anything.
Who's that?
I asked already.
That's two.
well, they already said they were gonna do it, right? They talked about, I heard that, so that's good. And they're gonna pick
I
the,
think we can make a subcommittee.
For a budget task force?
We can do whatever we want
Can we?
for the legislature.
With impunity?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Who's gonna challenge us?
The legislature. The ethics committee, the legislature.
What did I miss?
So we were talking about whether or not we need
Budget
to
task
actually
force.
take a vote on whether or not we recommend a budget task force. And I wasn't going to do it unless anybody had some hesitations for them.
Trying to spin it in my head a couple of different ways. I mean, at this point, I really haven't had a lot of time to really think it through. It sounds like a good idea, but it may be throwing us into the weeds too for an extended period of time, trying to do what's proposed with that.
I think it's not gonna be.
Bottom line so far is I support the premise of creating that task force, because there are an awful lot of things that we could be doing differently. And 3/4 of the state and the cities and towns in the state do things totally different than we do. I don't think we're ready to go to the point of supporting or not supporting that at this point. That's just a, how can I explain it? It's something that's intended to be dealt with after we get past town meeting and elections. So I think that's when we could, when it starts to be discussed a little bit more on what the charge is gonna be, I think that's when we decide whether we fully support it or not.
I guess that raises the question of does this even need to be in a report?
No.
Since it's not something that exists yet.
I don't.
Basically what I just said, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It doesn't need to be.
It's a
in
great
there.
point. So we don't even have to vote on whether we
And
recommend.
the select board already said they were gonna do it, so it's even moot.
Actually, they haven't, I don't think they have yet. I think only Renee has said she's gonna advocate for it like
Oh,
crazy.
she did? Well, then maybe we should.
Nobody disagreed with her, let's put it that way.
Lou won't even be there. All right, so let's strike it and we'll just finish what we have.
Yep.
Perfect, done.
Okay, so I have one more question. You have a couple of things that you're gonna add in there. There are 3 highlights. So is it better to just email what we've all worked on collaboratively to you, and then you'll pop it up onto SharePoint?
No, email it to me and then I'll double check the numbers. I'll email it out one more time
Okay.
for everyone to respond individually.
Okay, I'm naming this the same thing, but it says live at the end of it.
Rev dash.
Yes. All right, so we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Oh, I can stop sharing now. All right, that brings us up. Thank you. Watching us live? Receptive. Brings us up to old business. Does anyone want to discuss the budget again?
Sure, let's start all over again.
Yeah, let's scrap it and restart.
Yeah.
How about the override?
No.
No?
No.
Excellent. We have 2 warrant articles that we have deferred on, and both had them pulled up. They are, 1 second, Articles 4 and Article 5, I believe. Yes, 4 and 5. So Article 4 is payments of prior year's expenses, and Article 5 is amendments to appropriations and sources of funds for FY '24.
Do have an update on both of those.
Great.
So we do have prior year expenses that will be on the warrant. There are details that weren't paid by the end of the year. And that amount is $1,994.55.
Might we get more?
No, I've asked. We're going with that now. Otherwise, they have to wait till fall.
Okay.
And the budget adjustment article will be the snow and ice. Our number with the last snowstorm is approximately 226,000 that we'll need to make a budget adjustment from. And my recommendation is to take that out of the reserve fund because we have 275,000 in that account. And there will be a minimal amount as well for the salary reserve to make that supplemental amount that will be needed in fiscal '24.
Isn't the reserve account the one that we vote on to?
Yes, if there needs to be any actual requests, which we haven't received any requests for a number of years to take money out of that account. Otherwise, we've historically used that as to tap into for end of year at town meeting for budget adjustments.
But couldn't we just do it for the snow and ice and not even have a warrant on it and pass it over at town meeting?
That's a matter of preference. I mean, we've,
You
something
can
this
have an article
big.
at town meeting?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be in
We
the
still
town
need to do,
consent calendar,
we
I'm
still
sure.
need to do, yeah, the salary
Traditionally-
reserve.
I'm sorry. Traditionally, we don't fund it out of the reserve fund, though. Haven't we covered it many other ways?
Free cash.
This is the first time I can even remember
No, we've-
doing it out of reserve
We've used the reserve fund before to cover this.
for
Yeah,
snow and
not
ice.
entirely, but at least a portion.
Okay.
We don't typically have that much in the reserve fund. We typically carry 75,000. That was the number that we adjusted in the fall, right before the pro forma tax.
Refresh my memory, does the reserve balance carry over to 25?
No, it would close out.
It closes out, okay.
Any questions on those ones?
Yeah, I would recommend that someone just come and ask us to transfer the reserve account, and we not even have a warrant article on it.
Yeah. And it's also transparency to a town meeting,
What transparency?
that the voters are seeing. But
And that's the whole purpose of the reserve account, though, is for us to be able to handle unexpected.
yes, that large of an amount, we've never done.
Do you want to make a suggestion, Chris?
I think I just did make a suggestion.
Are you making that a motion of a suggestion?
Well, I don't know that we can force them to do that, but
I don't know. Since I've been on the finance committee, I've never seen one go. I've never even had one come up.
I think it should become practice. I think we should start putting more money in the reserve account for unexpected but my preference would be to not even have an article on it. Just balance it out now and skip over the article.
It can be also, if we consider it non-controversial, be included in the consent calendar as well.
Okay. I'm going to vote no to the recommendation, but if someone wants to make it, I would prefer that someone come to us and ask for us to allocate money from the reserve account. Because otherwise, I don't even know the point of the reserve account. I mean, the whole point is for this situation in my mind. Why not use it?
From a business standpoint, it makes sense to me, but I feel like I haven't been on the committee long enough to really have a strong opinion about what I believe the right thing is to do. Like, if this was private industry, I know what way I lean. Reserve accounts are for that, in fact, but I also am hearing the point of, that you're making, which is, and stop me if I'm wrong about this, transparency, and you're bringing it to the town to have everyone else vote on it too.
I think we have a lot of ways we do things in this town that tends to neuter certain boards and commissions in town and centralize control into the select board. And I think that this is one case where we should exercise our control, come to us for that reserve account that is in our control, and we will allocate it if that's the right thing to do. You've got to start using the finance committee in the way it's intended, not as some last-minute group to write a report. I mean, ultimately, we're the ones that are supposed to be presenting the articles to town meeting. Historically, it was us preparing the budget. Now we just can influence it. And I think a lot of the mess we're in is because we're not in control of budgetary decisions in this town. And we've given that responsibility to the select board, the executive committee. It'd be like having no Congress.
How do we make a motion to continue this conversation so that we have more time to dig into it?
Or we can just defer to town meeting, and then we get to have this whole conversation on town meeting floor.
Well, I mean, in general, as a whole, I think what Chris is bringing up it's a valid thing to continue to discuss as a group and as a town, like.
I think the discussion on how this committee should be used is something we should discuss in the off-season in general.
Right.
But I just think that this is a case where if you're tapping into the reserve account, which we control, you should be asking us to release money out of the reserve account, not playing it till the end and saying by default, it's just gonna happen, because it's either gonna turn into free cash or it's gonna, we're gonna have the, you know, in essence, the select board make that determination. So,
Ultimately, town meeting, not select board.
yeah. But, so I'm okay with the $1,000 article. I will defer on the other one.
Well,
With the recommendation that you just come to us and say, release it and pass it over at town meeting, saying we balanced our budget throughout the year.
Do we have other thoughts on the reserve account article?
Anything we decide tonight's not going into the warrant anyway, so
Yeah.
we just let it go to town meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll talk about it there.
That's where I stand too.
Well, that's what I was saying. If we continue to defer, then we get to actually have this discussion on town meeting floor. It doesn't, we don't have to raise our hand to have a comment made.
Right.
Okay.
But also, can we add 4 future topics too?
Oh,
Like,
it's already
not-
on- it's
not
already
next
on
week,
there.
but- Okay.
All right, so let's take Article 4 first, which is the, thank you. Let's take Article 4 first, which is the payment of prior year's expenses in the total, in the amount of $1,994.55. Does anybody want to make a motion for that one?
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval on that one.
Second.
All right, motion is made and seconded to recommend approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are unanimous, 6-0, one absent. For Article 5, the amendments to appropriations and sources of funds for FY '24 in the amount of about $226,000 from the reserve fund, which currently has about $275,000. Does anyone want to make a recommendation for this one? We are currently deferred, so we can just
Leave
not
it
make a
def-
recommendation.
Leave it deferred.
Fantastic. We are deferred unanimously. We are deferred still. Okay. You can start writing your speech for that one.
Fourscore.
It's well-written in the handbook of town,
Town Finance
town
Committee.
finance committees. It warns very much against what I just talked about in its preamble.
Yep.
So read it.
I put the newest version into the, to our drive already. It's in the SharePoint under, where is it specifically under?
My recommendation is do not try to read it at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, don't do that.
Put you to
Associate,
sleep.
there we go. Yeah, it's in the Association of Town Finance Committees folder. It's called the Finance Committee Handbook, HB 2021. That's the most recent one. All right, any other discussion on warrant articles? Do we want to go back and revisit anything? I'm happy not to.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
We do have some minutes that were sent over. I haven't even had a chance to read them yet, so I'm just going to kick those ones down a little bit further. Are there any committee reports?
Can I just on minutes, we gotta go address the ones that
We do.
we can't find.
I'm planning on when we have, like, when we're done with all of this stuff. I know it goes past the time we're supposed to. We've gone way further than on other times.
Okay.
So I'm okay with pushing it until kind of after everything settles down.
Okay.
Any committee meeting reports?
One, I don't know, the Parks had a cleanup day at the town beach building. So ripped up the carpets and the particle board underlay on it in getting ready for putting down a new floor in there. There was a dumpster, it was like 20 years worth of trash thrown away. So it's looked pretty good by the end of it, and it was all volunteer folks that went in and volunteered their time to rip that up, so that was a good community event.
You want to plug the next one coming up for Earth Day?
They're not Earth Day related, but there are some cleanup events.
Wait, they're not Earth Day related?
No, I was corrected on that last
Oh.
week.
Oh, boy. I
But,
always thought they were.
yeah, I don't think they are. But there are cleanup events, and if you go to the rec department, you can sign up for those. And just in general, if you want to clean up roads and stuff, you can go to DPW and get slightly different yellow bags, I think, to be used for walking around and cleaning up. So there's one that's kind of sponsored through Parks, and then the other one is, I think anyone can do, maybe on Earth Day is when they typically do it.
Got it. Any other committee reports so far?
Not really a committee report, but I attended the Association Town Finance Committee meeting on this past Saturday. Specifically about smart growth, Mr. Cronin was there as one of the presenters, so in one of the Q&A sections, I asked him what was going on with that moving forward, and he proceeded to explain to the rest of the Finance Committee members what I was talking about and how it impacted us, so on and so forth. And basically, at the end of that presentation, he said, at this point, nothing's being done with it. So, if we expect anything to be done with smart growth, we're going to have to really put some pressure on the delegation to get them to make some kind of decisions on it. They did go through the proposed changes in the Municipal Empowerment Act as it's being brought forward now. I think I sent a copy of the presentations to all of you. I wasn't real impressed that they were really helping us much, except allowing us to tax our users of businesses in town more, and creating a couple of committees, and allowing amortization of deficit spending for emergencies. And one of them that I thought was, personally, I thought was crazy, was allow us to extend out debt for schools to 40 years instead of 30 years.
Yep.
You know, the minute they said that, I said, buildings are falling down in 30 years under the present scenarios. Why would we fund them out 40 years and still be paying for them? So anyway, that's, you know, they went over that. It was a good presentation. It was a good chance, again, like MMA, but in a much smaller setting, to be able to talk with other finance committee members. And as I said earlier, there are many cities and towns in this state doing things totally different than the way we do them, and doing it successfully, including DPW and facilities maintaining all facilities and DPW responsibilities throughout their town or throughout their city, and the school takes care of the schools. And one member who's been at it for quite a while said that, you know, if you're not a regional school district, you got to remember you're a school department, you're a department of the town, not a district. He made that point a couple of times. I also had the pleasure of sitting with one of the members of the Arlington Finance Committee, who are 21 members strong. And he says, you know, the first thing was everybody looked at him, oh, that must be really tough. And he said, no, we all work together and we get it done. So I think we really need to look at how we have the structure of this town set up and start looking at what other towns are doing and see if there's some advantage to moving in those directions.
More topics for future meetings.
We'll need a bigger stage.
That's exactly, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
We need a budget for that, though.
The Master Plan Steering Committee met on the 5th. And interestingly, one of our members brought up the last time that there was a master plan master plan report done, which was, I believe, 2002. And it was started in 1995, and it was an envisioning forward to 2007. And they redid it again in 2002. And if you look at what their needs are and what the town's needs are now, they're almost identical to what they wanted back then. Interestingly, though, there was some data that they took out of there for what the charges were, what the priorities were, what they thought could be done, and what projects could be done. And we had about 30% of the projects that they suggested actually made it to completion, including the pavement management plan. There was, I believe, the trash bags came out of that, or the trash. At that time, everyone had their own trash, and so the trash conversation started then. But the remaining, 65, 70% were either started and not finished, or were never started, or there's no information as to whether or not they were started, so you can assume they were never started. So we talked about, after the charge of the committee is over, having another committee or some type of someone to stay on top of it, kind of a champion to stay on top of it and recommend continuing the projects and whatnot. We also talked about large area properties with the chair of the select board, Mr. Jeffries, for future events, clearing for example, the 300th anniversary coming up, or other town events and whatnot. So he listed off a couple properties to use. And then lastly, there is going to be another survey launching, the last survey launching on May 4th. They will be at town meeting. They will have a little table set up with QR codes and information packets and hand out surveys and whatnot. And there will be one more public meeting on the 30th of April as well, at 6 p.m. at Smokestack. To go over that again.
One thought I had when because I actually listened to that meeting, because what else would you do on Friday night?
Exactly.
But whatever goals they do come out of that,
Mm-hmm.
we should probably include that in our annual budget process and say, what you're proposing to do here map against the plan of the town.
It's a good idea. We're doing our best to have a report ready to go for special town meeting in the fall. Not with finalized information at all, because I think it's a 3-year plan, a 3-year project. Okay. But at least an updated plan with what's going on and to kind of start that conversation. But I'll take that back to them as well. I think that's a good idea. Other than that, as far as the Board of Health goes, the EPA came out with new regulations for PFAS. So that is going to drop the levels down to about 4 parts per trillion, which is going to mean that we are failing on a number of our wells and our water service for those that are on public water supply. So there will be some financial impact coming through with that one. That is not directly through us, but will directly affect the town, at least the people that are on public water. So there's water department meetings coming up. There's as I believe it was the special town meeting.
Water district.
I'm sorry, the water
Water
district. Yes, thank you. They received additional funding for information to the public and education to the public. So there's meetings coming up. I encourage people to go and to see those if you're on town water, because it's going to be important coming up.
You only have to be in the water district.
Correct.
You don't have to be on town water.
Right.
Because I'm in the district, but not on town water, so I could.
You're still invited?
You can go, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. I'm in the sewer district. I don't think I can go to the sewer meetings, though.
I don't know how that one works.
Lastly, who's free on, speaking of Fridays, April 26th from 7 to 9 p.m.?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Who's free on Friday, April 26th from 7 to 9 p.m.?
Oh, this is for the,
Are you smarter than our sixth
yeah,
graders?
I can attend.
No, I can't.
No?
Hard no.
Hard no?
Hard no.
All right. So I'll message Miss Russell directly then and see if she's available. If she is, we'll have a team of 3 at least. I'll go too. Let's see. Topics for future meetings other than the two we have so far. Anything else? For now? Okay. Upcoming meetings, we're scheduled to have one in 2 weeks on the 25th. I'm gonna keep it for now, and I'll post for it just in case. But unless anything comes up, I can't think of anything that we're gonna need to do.
If you post late on that one, I won't have.
If I accidentally, I was, yeah. You were getting text messages from me. Town manager was getting text messages from me. I posted on Saturday. I was terrified it didn't get posted for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I don't see a reason to meet unless.
I agree completely.
Right.
Unless someone wants to come forward and request a transfer.
Yeah.
reserve
From a
line.
reserve fund,
I'll keep the date open, but,
all 25.
I'll send out I'll just send out an email before that, if there's anything that we need to do.
speaking of the reserve fund, not to stretch this meeting out, but to stretch it out a little bit. We know a line item has been depleted.
Oh,
Are we not making a transfer to balance that out, or is that gonna close out also? Because in the past, we've made the transfer.
for our meetings,
Yes.
we're over budget for our meetings,
Right, so we do that at the end of the year.
right? November. Yeah.
No, June.
No, end of
June.
June.
Okay.
And then we'll see about next year's budget, if we need to increase it again. After that, May 4th is annual town meeting, we're finally there. And then 2 weeks after that is annual town meeting, or annual town election. With that, is there any public comment from the public this evening? We have one person on the phone.
No.
Sounds like no. If you do want to unmute, I think it's *9 to unmute. While we're waiting, is there any public comment from the committee?
I just want to say, may the 4th be with us all at town meeting, because it is still May 4th,
Oh, it will be, yes.
just on a lighter side, because it's been a very serious budget season.
And it may go into May 5th.
So we may go into May 5th.
It'll be quick.
Sure. Move every question right after the start of the first discussion.
What's the timing gonna be on consent calendar? Because we have, Select Board has the first, or has a bite at it, and then we also have a bite at it before town meeting 4, usually.
It's still a major meeting.
The 25th meeting is the consent calendar, so we may be meeting on the 25th for the consent calendar.
Right.
That'll be a quick meeting at least then. I'll throw one item up there and that's it.
I mean, we could potentially do that on Zoom if that's the only thing we need to do.
We could.
It's up to you. That's a chair's call.
Sure. All right. Any other public comment? Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:28 PM, everyone. Have a great night.